Welcome back to the Sense of Life podcast. My name's Cody,
I'm Joe.
and I think this is our first of the weekly version of the pod.
Yeah.
Today, not today, the past couple days, we watched a couple movies by the legendary filmmaker Jean-Luc Godard. Godard, I'll introduce the movies in a bit, but a little bit about Godard for those that are living under a cinephile rock. He was probably the most famous of the what's called the French New Wave or the Nouvelle Vague, I think. Series of filmmakers from the 1960s, including Godard and Francois Truffaut, Agnes Varda, Eric Rohmer, Jacques Demy. A lot of people that they started actually as film critics for the actually still running, I think, a film magazine in France called Cahiers du Cinema. And if you know anything about movies, these guys are need no introduction. But particularly for kind of the appraisal of like classic Hollywood cinema, a lot of what we understand today as like the important directors like Hitchcock and Hawks and John Ford comes from Cahiers du Cinema and comes from these at the time critics who, at least in France at the time, Hollywood cinema was just derided as like popular entertainment, and particularly with like Truffaut and Hitchcock, they were kind of key figures in reappraising these like Hollywood filmmakers as artists and not as just like studio hacks or whatever. And France actually has a history of doing this. I think the first big one they did was Edgar Allan Poe, so I've heard. Yeah, so France has a history of taking American artists that are derided critically and reappraising them as masters or whatever.
That's pretty
Thoughts?
Cool. Yeah. That I actually did not know that. I'm not too well versed in like new wave cinema and stuff like that, and what you just described there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that actually is pretty neat.
Yeah. I think I don't remember who else, but Lovecraft might have been one as well. You kind of have to look into it, but
Right.
a lot of, like I said, just a lot of American artists that were not well received at first. If they were received well later, there's probably someone French involved. Just generally speaking. Okay, and Godard's first film, which I've seen, I don't think Joe has, Breathless. We did not watch that. I did, but I don't like it. But it is important to know it. It's the first movie to use what were called jump cuts. I think everyone knows this, but basically we have Jean-Luc Godard to thank for like the history of YouTube from 2011 to 2017. So
it's like that the dominoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fucking Godard invents the jump cut, and then you've got annoying TikTokers and stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, Godard is he's just kind of important to the history of filmmaking. I don't really know much about him beyond that and beyond the couple movies that we talked about. I mean, that we watched.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's important to know. And the first movie we watched, Contempt, which came before the second movie we watched, but we'll get to that one because I think it's more interesting. It is the most commercially successful film that he made. Um, and it was also, I think, the most commercially minded film that he made. In that it had I think it was CinemaScope look that it was meant to play in like American movie plexes and shit. Um, Stars Brigitte Bardot as the uh, wife of a screenwriter played by Michel Piccoli, who is kind of upset with his life because he's rewriting a script for an adaptation of Homer's The Odyssey with Fritz Lang, a kind of high-end classic Hollywood studio director. Directed things like M, the first serial killer film, Metropolis, the classic silent film, a lot of noir films. So he shows up as a character playing himself, actually.
Yeah, that
And
was
they
pretty cool.
are, yeah, they were doing kind of a new adaptation of Homer's The Odyssey. And the movie's really about the kind of, well, contempt that uh, is brewing between Brigitte Bardot and her husband because he is not doing something that he likes, and it's affecting their relationship.
Quite
That's, I think,
rapidly, I would add.
yes.
Obviously,
So
with it being a movie, but like it's like a day in the story.
yeah. So that kind of basic introduction there. What did you think of Contempt?
Um, I thought it actually was more of a. It says that it's like a drama film, but I found it
Yeah,
more funny than anything else while watching
sure.
it. Um,
Mhm.
that might just be my uh Zoomer brain, late Zoomer. Don't want to be thrown in with those animals.
Yeah, it could be like
Early. Wait, no.
yeah. I think you mean early Zoomer.
Early Zoomer, not late Zoomer. I'm not a fucking child. Uh, yeah,
It could be like called a comedy drama, maybe, or a dramedy.
dramedy.
That fucking annoying word.
There was a car that just
Yeah,
drove by.
I agree that it is funny.
Yeah, the opening scene was really testing the French that I learned in elementary school, bringing all
Yeah,
that back because the opening scene of the movie is Brigitte and I forget what her character's name was, Camille. Her and her husband were like laying in bed, and she's asking him like if he likes this part of her body or this part, and she's like literally
yeah,
it goes on for like several minutes to the point where I'm
yeah.
like oh yeah, that's how you say I in French. Oh, that's how you say nose, right? Of course, of course. It was like just a really silly scene. The longer it went on, the more like kind of absurdly funny I found it.
Well, that was actually right after the opening scene. The opening scene is that moment where it's uh, the film crew doing that tracking shot on the dolly,
Right? Yeah, yeah.
and
Which
it's
had like an
they're-
audio
yeah.
credits, which I don't think I've ever seen in a movie where a film's
I don't think so
opening
either.
and a film's opening credits are not like a text on the screen. It's just I'm pretty sure it was actually Godard himself narrating the opening.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
so.
but yeah, no, I'm pretty sure that was him narrating the beginning of that movie, and yeah, that was just an interesting thing that I don't think I've ever seen before.
Yeah, it was a really cool opening, and I think I can't remember when I read this before or heard about it. Was there was a producer on the film that really wanted, I think, really wanted Bardot's ass in the movie a lot,
Yeah,
and Godard obliged. She shows up quite a bit, and including that, like after the opening scene, the scene you're talking about, where they're just like talking about. She's like, Do you like my feet, my legs, my butt?
Yeah.
it's, it's so bizarre.
It's like, okay, you want more? We'll give you more. And then there was that shot where it was slowly panning back towards her feet, and then it stopped right before her feet and went back, and we were just like making jokes about Tarantino getting cock blocked.
Yeah, blue ball Tarantino.
Blue ball Tarantino, yeah.
And what else? Kind of overall about the movie before we get into like the basically what happens. Oh yeah, it's a movie about movies, about filmmaking. It's about a screenwriter, and Fritz Lang is a character, and Jack Palance plays the film producer, who I thought was fucking hilarious. Jeremy Profesh, I think is his name.
Something along those lines.
And he has all of these like great like classic film producer well, I guess he's more of a studio executive. I don't know about a producer, but he's got those like classic scenes of like you're killing me, Fritz. What are you doing? This wasn't in the script.
Yeah, the scene where they're watching the stuff that he had filmed near the beginning of the movie, and he just doesn't give a shit about like anything artistic that is going on. He's just like freaking out that nothing that was allegedly in the script is being shown on the screen. He like throws a bunch of shit around the room.
He like jumps up and throws like the film reel, like like a shot put or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Fritz Lang says something to him that was like kind of profound, but also funny in the moment. God, what was it? It was like he said it wasn't in the script, and he was like, he says it's like it was in the script. It was just words, and now it's pictures because this is a motion picture.
Yeah.
It's like that fucking like Zack Snyder interview where he was like talking about people saying that he only knows how to make pretty pictures, and he's like, well, I mean, it's called a motion picture. What do you want? So it was the kind of classic like art versus commerce, all the kind of tension of the medium of film that has always been there.
Yeah, the balancing act between the creative creator, as it were, and the money behind the production.
Yeah. It's a kind of a classic story, and it's I believe it's fairly influential. I think I read there is the song "Theme de Camille" from Contempt is used in Scorsese's Casino at some point.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's been a bit since I've seen that movie. I'll have to rewatch it, and
I haven't seen it at all, so I need to watch it. There's a lot of Scorsese I haven't seen. So.
Yeah, I think shockingly I might have seen more Scorsese than you have.
That's like the one director that like everyone's like seen everything, and I'm just like, I've seen Taxi Driver, and I feel like that's enough. No, I love Taxi Driver.
Well, I'm just saying that's enough because I'm pretty sure. I mean, it's quite different from his other later stuff. Like, very different.
Yeah, that's why I like Taxi Driver. That's what I'm saying.
Oh.
Like I wasn't a big fan of Raging Bull. They were showing that at a theater. I watched it. I thought the setup was better, but
I actually
Not the setup of the movie. The movie, the setup of 40s noir
uh,
from Robert Wise. Yeah, it's about a boxer that has to like throw a game or something. It's a good movie. What were you gonna say?
I have not seen Raging Bull. That is like one of the more famous not Tarantino, Jesus Christ,
Tarantino, yeah.
Scorsese movies that I have not seen.
Martin Tarantino and
I
Quentin Scorsese. Yeah.
I've been mixing up names for shit very frequently recently.
We got Francois Godard on this show.
Yeah. Jean-Luc Picard, my favorite director.
Yeah, if you fucking Google Jean-Luc, the first thing that comes up is Picard and not Godard.
Yeah,
I'm like, what am I, some fucking nerd?
I am.
I mean, I guess I am, because I'm looking up Jean-Luc Godard.
A different kind of nerd.
I'm like a cool nerd, I guess. I don't know. I never really got into Star Trek. My dad really likes it, but it's never been my thing.
It was a thing that I got into like within the last year. So I'm fairly new.
Were you watching like the original or?
I watched all of the original series. There was a point like when we first started doing the podcast, actually, my internet like shat the bed for and we had to wait to get like over a week to get my internet fixed. And during that time I had a Blu-ray copy of like the original series of Star Trek, and I just watched the entire thing because I had nothing better to do.
Hell yeah.
And I started watching the Next Generation, the one that has Picard as the main character, and I like it. I think it's pretty neat.
Yeah. And I think my mom watched it too when I was growing up. Yeah. Well, I think she was more into Stargate because she liked MacGyver.
Just a random Star Trek tangent because of the similarity of the director's name. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Tangents are cool for podcasts.
Yeah, I guess so.
So where was I? So they're shooting this film, and they were having the meeting about how the production's going, and and then we kind of transition into the tension between Camille and Paul, who is Michelle Piccoli's character, and Jeremy, Jack Palance's character, as well as the translator. I love the translator. Francesca's the character. Georgia Mole is the actress. Mm-hmm. And she's Jack Palance's translator, the studio exec. And like whenever she translates, it's really funny. Like the subtitles for them is like Jack Palance's character will say something really like dramatic and over the top, and when she translates it, it'll just be like what they need to know what he said. It's really funny.
Yeah, she just removes all of his dramatic sort of overreaction and shit like that from his long-winded statement about how doomed the project is and so on, or that they need to have shit rewritten in the script. And then
he'll be like the fires of this production are going out, and I need you to fix the fucking dialogue or some shit. and she'll just say, production's going bad. He needs new dialogue or something.
Yeah.
And it's not really like played for joke, which is I mean it's just a straight drama, but like it has those really great funny moments because it's
just real.
It's just real.
Yeah, the fact that they play it so straight is kind of what makes it funny.
Yeah. And like she has this like tension with him because like he's always coming on to her, and she's kind of into it, kind of not, doesn't really care, just wants to have her job and go home.
Right.
I think they've had sex a few times or whatever.
Oh. Possibly.
I think that's what happened. I might have misinterpreted that, but Paul is having sex with her, so he's cheating on Brigitte Bardot, which is insane. Just imagine cheating on Brigitte Bardot for like somewhat attractive Italian woman.
That is very, very silly behavior. Yeah.
Yeah, real silly goose behavior. And in kind of classic French style, Brigitte Bardot kind of knows and is just kind of like passive aggressive with him about it. And it gets so much to the point of that she eventually decides to sleep in the living room in their house or something, and it becomes this constant refrain of Paul asking her why she doesn't love him anymore, and she's like not telling him, and blah blah blah. Yeah, it's just a basic relationship drama that's kind of taking the um, using the metaphor of the screenwriter not loving his position because he is ultimately a careerist writer. That's at least at the time period. That's what a screenwriter would be, and he wants to be more of a passion writer. He was like a crime novelist, and they were. Camille was talking to him about how they used to make ends meet. It wasn't perfect, but like he loved what he was doing, and he didn't always look so depressed all the time. And I'd guess probably their sex life is not what it used to be because he just doesn't feel great. And it's just a really cool like metaphor about creativity and passion and romance.
Yeah, and then her negative energy that she's putting off starts to like seep its way into his ideas about rewriting the script for the movie.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty neat. They were kind of, his personal conflicts were making their way into his work.
Yeah.
Like
they would have
the whole thing about the Odyssey.
right.
That he's like reinterpreting Odysseus's journey taking so long to get back as he just didn't want to see his fucking wife.
Yeah. And you would have these like scenes from the Odyssey movie within the movie that would transition into like the shooting of the behind the scenes that were themselves transitions to like the actual movie we're watching. It was just cool little like I guess blocking kind of passages like that were really cool.
Yeah, that was definitely probably the most interesting part about actually watching it was that sort of aspect.
Yeah. I liked that one part where they just have like the shots of the statues of the gods.
Just moving their heads like
Yeah.
yeah, that was pretty great. I also the just to because you brought up the gods, the part with Jack Palance's character where he's like I know what it is to be like one of the gods, and it's it's like this guy, he's just saying shit that he thinks like makes him sound powerful, but then like the Greek gods were literally just a bunch of weird perverts, and
Yeah. Gosh, going to the end of it. He what does he do? I'm having a hard time remembering what happens.
Basically, to my recollection, she starts I'm pretty sure like initially he brings his wife along because he knows that the producer guy thinks his wife is hot.
Yeah.
And then like she starts like leaning into that and is doing it. She's like deliberately getting caught with the producer, like kissing him, and
Right. Yeah.
just specifically so that Paul will catch her, and like she just wants to make him mad. And
Yeah. She wants to get some kind of emotion out of him.
right, it actually the kind of relationship between her and Paul and Jack Palance's character is very much kind of reminiscent, like not in specifics, but like in like a general kind of idea of the Greek gods. There's just like
Right. Yeah.
just kind of jealousy and contempt, as it were, and
Yeah.
doing things to get back at each other. Just
Just
kind of
the kind
silly,
of like petty sexuality that's used to like
right?
make people angry at each other.
Yeah.
It is very Greek, and obviously Godard's well read and smart enough to make that
Hmm.
connection between um, these characters and like Greek gods and shit.
Yeah.
And it's actually based on a French novel. I don't really know anything about it. Il Deprizio.
And that's
Uh,
that's
no-
an Italian novel. You said
yes.
French.
Um, I thought it. Okay, yeah, it is an Italian novel. Just kidding.
Hmm.
Yeah. No, no. Based on a novel to script for the. Okay, yeah, it's about like the kind of the same thing. It came out in '54. That's why.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they mentioned at the beginning that it was based on a book in the opening like audio credits.
Yeah, the like voiceover credits. Yeah.
Right. Right. But yeah, in the end, she kind of he tries to play his hand and say like he leaves the decision up to her as to whether or not he should work on the film or not.
Right.
And I think at that point like things were just irreparably damaged.
Sure. Yeah.
And she kind of is just like, oh fuck it, whatever, and she just kind of throws her clothes off and goes for a swim. And then when he wakes up, she just decided to run away with the producer. They were going to Italy, or to Rome specifically.
Yeah, because he was. That's where his. I don't know if it's his company or like just like a subsidiary of it are based out of Italy, and she was gonna like hightail it somewhere else. I think,
Yeah.
and um, then I think he resolves to go fuck him up. I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he had a gun that they showed like several times in the movie, and like there's a part where the right after he saw his wife kissing the producer, the translator lady was like, "Oh, I found this on the boat," and it was his gun. And I was like,
Oh
"Oh
yeah,
fuck, is he gonna go? Is he gonna go kill him like right now?"
yeah,
But they subverted my expectation of murder,
yeah.
and he didn't shoot him.
Yeah, Godard was someone who was always saying that film is about a gun and a girl.
Oh,
Um, yeah, the
that explains a
with
lot.
yeah, he had a belief that cinema was defined by a gun, in that how long is it going to take before someone fires it, and a girl how long is it going to take for someone to undress it, her.
It.
I believe that is a De Palma description of that belief. I think De Palma's a big Godard fan. I
Mm,
know Quentin Tarantino is.
right.
He even named his production company when like Reservoir Dogs came out after Band Apart.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Um,
And then the movie reaches its kind of unceremonious end.
Hilarious, you mean?
Yeah, where the Jack Palance is driving and he drives into an oncoming truck and they die.
Yeah, Camille and Jack Palance's character, or Brigitte Bardot and Jack Palance's characters both die in a random car crash at the end of the movie, and
then the movie ends.
And well, there's also the part at the end where the husband is like talking to Fritz Lang as he's directing a scene, and they kind of just leave on like a kind of mutual respect. It's like, oh, I hope to see you again sometime, and then they just leave, and then the movie ends.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good movie. I liked it.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. We watched it on Criterion, right?
Yeah.
Get yourself a Criterion Channel subscription
if you haven't already. And I think their month-long 50% off sale at Barnes & Noble is happening this month. So if you're looking to go into debt buying some Criterion Blu-rays,
yeah,
this is the month to do it.
The only alternative is to become famous enough to go in their closet and get a couple movies for free.
Maybe someday.
Yeah. Imagine that being like a motivating factor for someone becoming famous.
Yeah.
Is that they could go to the Criterion closet to get a couple movies.
I'm pretty sure the fucking Letterboxd marketing team went to the Criterion closet.
Oh, yeah.
What the fuck?
I mean, they've had some weird fucking people in their closet getting movies. Like fucking Slavoj Žižek was in there. And if I remember correctly, he talked about incest of all things in the video of him in the closet, and he took 2 copies of the same movie when he left.
Incredible.
It was the most insane thing I had ever seen. I was like, what the fuck is going on? But yeah, the second movie, unless you have anything else to say about Contempt.
No, watch Contempt. It's very good.
Yeah, it's fun for the whole family. Well, not the whole family, but you know.
Yeah.
Unless it's a really cool family.
Unless your family's like dope as fuck.
Yeah.
And likes French art movies with naked women.
Right. Exactly. But yeah, no.
The
next movie was The Little Soldier, or in French, Le Petit Soldat.
Yeah.
I liked this one a lot, actually. I really liked this one.
This is probably my favorite Godard that I've seen so far. I've only seen 3 of them. But
yeah.
This is my favorite, and he's directed like 200 movies or some shit.
He got some work to do to catch up.
He has that like Miike work ethic, you know? And so this one has kind of an interesting like production history. So I'm gonna pull up the old wiki for this shit. So he started The Little Soldier right after he finished Breathless, which was his first movie, the movie that kind of announced him onto the scene as a very important movie. He started shooting Le Petit Soldat right afterward in 1960, and he finished it. And then it was banned in France because it dealt with the Algerian War of Independence, and specifically the 2 lead characters played by, what are these fuckers' names?
Anna Karina plays
Anna Karina,
Veronica,
and Michel Subor, or French Max Minghella. They play the lead characters, and this was his first project with Anna Karina, who he would go on to marry and eventually divorce. But this was also her first time as an actor, so she had no experience. This was her first movie, and so he kind of used that as part of her character, and that she's kind of naive, but maybe not so much. And the So the basic plot, it's a thriller. It's kind of like that bizarrely French structure that Godard kind of does, but it's a thriller about a this photojournalist who's also a spy for the French government, who is trying to infiltrate and like make sense of the like Algerian terrorist organization that is operating in this like war effort. And in doing so, he meets Anna Karina's character, who winds up that she's kind of like the femme fatale character, but she's kind of a naive femme fatale, and maybe not so naive, but yeah. So they, um, he's like a photographer, and he starts getting to know her, and the organization he works for wants him to kill this one guy who is. Do we remember his name? Because I can't think of it.
Hollywood?
Halivoda, yeah. There's some guy who I think they suspect of being like an Algerian terrorist or like linked to the organization. And so he's supposed to assassinate this guy, and he refuses to do so, and starts hiding out with this woman, Anna Karina's character. And this is basically taking as defecting from the French military. And yeah, chaos ensues.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Um, it was definitely a very stylistically interesting experience.
Yeah.
I really liked. There was a point in there where essentially every single character was just getting close-ups where they were smoking a cigarette, and it was like,
Yeah.
that smoking culture is just gone now. Everyone back in the day just smoking like a chimney all day long. And
Yeah, just chain smoking their lives away.
Yep.
A better time, really.
The part where he's actually talking to these sort of I don't even know what they were. Were they like actual government agents that he was talking with? These French guys or what? Like I have no idea what they were.
I think they were like French agents, kind of his employers,
Yeah,
kind of
and
not.
they wanted him to kill that guy, and
Yeah,
he was he was a deserter, and they were going to if he didn't kill this guy, they were going to like alert the authorities to him living in Geneva.
right.
And he had like this interesting part where he kind of just like you hear his internal thoughts through quite a bit of the movie, and he's kind of just thinking to himself like, I'm not going to uh I'm not going to kill this guy unless they force me to, and then at that case, yeah, I'll do it. Or it was like he just kind of had like this sort of like, well, if they force me to, I'll do it, but I don't want to, kind of thing. And he just there's like several points in the movie where he's like, okay, I'll do it, and then he doesn't. He does it. That happens like twice.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it kind of gets to the point where uh they actually set him up to like I think they literally steal his car and like smash it into someone else's car to make it appear as though he did like a hit and run to get the cops on him, so that uh he would, feel the pressure to actually comply with them in order to carry out this hit, or else,
yeah,
the police would find out he's a deserter from France and send him
right.
back. Uh,
Yeah, like a lot of these type of thrillers, the plot is kind of nonsense.
yeah,
And made even more so because of like, I think it might have been Godard that said like movies have a beginning, middle, and end, but they don't necessarily have to be in that order. And then David Mamet's response to that is to say, and that's why French movies are so fucking boring.
Ooh.
I disagree, but it was a funny comment.
Yeah, this definitely was not a boring movie. It was also not a long movie either.
Yeah.
It was only an 88-minute runtime, which I think fit for this kind of movie. It was
Yeah, you're kind of in, you're out, and it also like the pacing was it was kind of like breezy,
yeah.
like easy listening kind of fucking music or some shit.
Yeah.
And you kind of like jump in, jump out of like the actual events that are happening, but um it gets to the point where um main character kind of stumbles somehow and gets caught by the Algerian terrorist or cell, and the kind of more sinister political operations are sort of revealed here when they start talking about the torture methods that this terrorist cell has been using on like French military in this war for independence. And this is well, actually, something later is more the reason for the banning, I think. But so you have this whole sequence of uh, torture porn kind of
Yeah.
situation where he's like locked up in a bathtub and they're like lighting matches and putting them on his hands and shit.
Yeah. It was all textbook torture. Though it wasn't bloody torture though, like the
Right.
modern
Yeah.
torture porn. It was just like very uncomfortable kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they put the cloth around his
Well,
head
actually, I mean,
and
there was that one like war photography picture that he shows him of like, this is
yeah,
what we're
yeah.
gonna do to you, kind of thing.
Right, where they showed the two dead guys, but
Yeah.
um that uh I think that is very different from the modern. I wouldn't call this torture porn.
No, no, I was
I know you were just
fucking
making
around.
a joke, but yeah, it was more just like trying to the way he narrates his own like experience of being tortured as well was pretty interesting. And
Yeah.
he there's a part where when they first bring him into the room and he kind of comments, he's like, I forgot to count how many steps there were, so I have no clue what floor we're on.
Yeah.
uh and stuff like that, and that kind of plays in later. But he he's kind of just like thinking to himself, how much of this will I be able to take? Will I, will I talk or not? Um, and he never ends up actually, confessing to anything because they want him to tell them where the phone number for the like French organization he's working for. They want the phone number for that place, and he like refuses to give it to them. And he ends up escaping by like jumping out of the window. And
Yeah.
that sequence was really funny because he like walks toward the window, and the Algerian guy, who looks like Jonathan Hoenig, by the way, the Algerian guy that looks like Jonathan Hoenig. I'm sure if this is the YouTube upload, there's going to be a picture of Jonathan Hoenig on the screen.
Yeah.
But
Hell yeah.
looks like Jonathan Hoenig, and he walks over to the window as he's telling them this story about a guy that was tortured by the Gestapo that had like his eyes plucked out or something. He's like talking about how this guy was feeling up against the wall to find glass to escape out the window, and he walks behind the one of the torturers, and then like along the opposite wall across from the window, and then he just full on sprints across the room and smashes through the window.
Yeah.
It was a pretty crazy escape. But a shot that I found was probably my favorite in the movie was before that, when he's in the bathroom being tortured, and you've got him handcuffed to like the pipes on the wall, and you've got the guy that's torturing him, and then you've got like the main kind of interrogator guy, and the guy that's torturing him is like along the left side of the frame, and he's like in the center of the frame, but between them is the mirror, and there's like a part where you actually see the other guy enter the frame through the mirror, so you know that that guy is in the scene now, and then the camera would like switch over to him as he's talking, and then you would see him in the mirror, as the scene was playing out. I just thought that was really neat.
Right, yeah. And when he escapes, I think he heads back to the girl, right?
Yeah, who is immediately, like, the narration just straight up tells you that she was working with the Algerians.
Yes.
Very economical storytelling there, where they don't even have a moment where, like, she confirms it to him. They just tell you that she was.
Yeah, by the way, she's a psycho. And then my favorite scene in the movie is this like almost a monologue of the main character, like talking about it's basically a fucking Anna Katchian tweet from Red Scare, and of like when she was talking about how I was just talking about this in the TPN Discord of she would talk about how the really like far into it MRA MGTOW incel guys should find one of these like really annoying dirtbag left e-girl feminists, and they need to like date, and this would solve their problems. Because they would make each other come together. And he talks about like uniting the right and the left, and how like the right-wing person will get into office and implement left-wing policies, and then vice versa for the left and the right. And it was like a thoroughly modern like screed of politics and how it works. It's like heavy-handed and kind of fun in that way. But yeah, the movie becomes like this like incel movie.
He was the Travis Bickle before we had Travis Bickle. He was
he was literally me.
He was literally me before literally me even existed.
Yeah,
and so
it's Travis Bickle, by the way.
That sure.
You know that YouTuber Kino Corner that does the literally me videos.
Yeah, that's his profile picture makes him kind of look like Seamus on Twitter. Yeah, every time I see it, I'm like, he kind of looks like Seamus.
He kind of tweets like Seamus too. Oh god, but yeah, this scene is really cool. It's so bizarre that it becomes like a fucking Twitter thread of an article about politics just at the very end, and it's literally that we have that Ryan Gosling, Ana de Armas, Blade Runner 2049 meme right in front of us. See, that guy posted the letter N. Now I have to reply to him with the letter I.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that despite this lady working for like a communist Algerian terror cell, she kind of seems like politically indifferent to the point where she's not radicalized by their ideas. She kind of like, I think she just says like something about how the French had an ideal when they fought against the Germans, but they don't have an ideal while fighting against the Algerians. And she said something along the lines of like, all she knows is that the French are wrong. Which is a pretty funny line. And
she basically has like no position on anything, just like hates the French or something.
And this was the part that I think both of us kind of suspect is the real reason why the movie was banned in France, not the torture stuff. I mean, obviously most people would assume that this is the reason it was banned, because the character, one of the two main characters of the movie, the Veronica, she kind of openly says that the French will lose this war in Algeria. And the thing is that the movie was shot in 1960, you said?
Right. Yeah.
And the war was ongoing at that point, and the movie was not released until 1963 after the war had ended. But in the actual dialogue of the film, she says that the French aren't going to win this war, and then sure enough, in real life, they didn't, and it kind of ended the French colonial empire.
Right.
This whole war that they lost, and
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of interesting that she basically just called it like, yeah, they're not going to win.
Yeah. Which means Godard basically just called.
Yeah.
And I also think it was banned because there's that scene where like the French government are basically like just in broad daylight have this girl like gagged and bound in the back of their car. So it's kind of implied that the methods of the French like national government is not all that different from like the Algerian terrorists or whatever.
Right.
So it's making that kind of comparison. So I think that has more to do with it.
That
But
too.
it was probably a little bit of both.
Yeah. But yeah, the movie ends with this whole plan that he had with Veronica was that they were going to leave and go to Brazil together, and
Right.
he gave up the address of where these Algerian torturers were in order to get 2 diplomatic passports so him and her can leave. But in requesting 2 and saying who the second one was for, he gives her name to the French people, and they figure out fairly quickly that she was actually working with the Algerians. And at this point, she isn't anymore. She wants to actually flee to Brazil with Bruno, the main character.
Yeah.
But they're like, well, she was working with them, and then they kind of set up like this elaborate thing where they get Paul, or not Paul, that's the character from the first movie, Bruno, to call them, and they're like, the Algerians were not there, so you're not going to get your diplomatic passports. We need you to kill that guy that you keep failing to kill. And he's like, okay, I'll be over. And then they had recorded him saying his own name because they pretended to not be able to hear him on the line. And then they go to his apartment where he was at with Veronica as he's leaving to go meet them somewhere else. And they use the recording of him saying his own name to like get her to open the door. And they just fucking kidnap her. And that's what you got into there with the French just kidnapping this woman in broad daylight.
Yeah.
Like gagged in their car in public.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And then the movie has another unceremonious end. He's doing this voiceover after having kind of sloppily killed this guy, and like when he shoots him, you see him jump from like pressing the trigger, and then he like spazzes out and runs away.
Yeah.
And then as he's going down to the end of the line, he like says to himself, like the narrator says to himself, like I'm not bitter.
Yeah. He narrates as he kills the guy. It's like, oh yeah, they told me that if I killed the guy, then they would give me back Veronica and we could leave. But she had already been killed by the time I killed that guy. And then he basically says something about learning how to not be bitter about that fact that they used him to kill this guy and then didn't even fulfill the promise that they made.
Yeah. And then he turns the corner and the movie ends.
Yeah. Very good movie. It's a short one too, really so good. Like if you're short on time and you want a good movie and you like French new wave cinema, then watch The Little Soldier.
Petit Soldat. Yeah. Both of those movies are on the Criterion Channel right now. I don't know how long they'll stay, but they've been there a while, so they might stay there a while.
Right.
But yeah, both are really great. If you're looking to get into Godard, I'd probably recommend these 2 movies before I'd recommend Breathless.
Is that on Criterion as well?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
There was a remake of Breathless in the '80s starring Richard Gere,
Okay.
which is supposed to be actually pretty good.
Oh.
So I'm curious about it, honestly. It's a more like conventional like erotic thriller version of the party movie.
You love to see it.
Yeah, shout out to that. Yeah, that's kind of an intro to Godard for both of us, really.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I'd like to check out more of his stuff. If
he's
it's
got a lot.
yeah, if it's on the level of this movie, The Little Soldier, then definitely yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard good things about like Paris Le Fou, um, Alphaville, Masculine, Feminine. Yeah, he's got a lot of like classics. But yeah, I unless you've got anything else, I think we can go ahead and wrap it up.
No, I got nothing else.
All right, that's been this week's episode of Sense of Life. We'll be back next week. We are talking about we're going back to Nick Refn, we haven't talked about since the second episode. We're talking about the Pusher trilogy, his first three, well, I guess first two movies, and then his fourth movie, I think.
Bleeder and Fear X came out before. I think they came out before 2 and 3, if I'm not mistaken, because I'm pretty sure Pusher 2 and 3 were made because his production company was in the shitter financially.
Because of Fear X and Bleeder, yeah.
Because of Fear X and Bleeder, yeah.
Mostly Bleeder, I think.
Yeah. The Pusher trilogy and Bleeder are the only Refn movies I've not seen, so it'll be nice to knock out 3 of those 4 movies with this podcast episode.
I think I'm in the same boat. We've also been threatening to watch Too Old to Die Young and just never fucking finishing it.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get to it. Yeah. Anyway, we'll be back next week. Thanks for joining. Talk soon.
Yep. See you next time.